Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce one last time the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you. Every time I'm here, it's made me so damn proud to be an American. And I must all of you as well. 1% of you are defending 99% of us. We owe you big. Just over 240 years ago, George Washington gave his farewell address to the Continental Army. Still astonished by their victory and by their unity, Washington asked, and I quote, "Who that was not a witness could imagine the men who came from different parts of the continent would instantly become one patriotic band of brothers?" That's what you are, one patriotic band of brothers. Vice President Harris, Jill, Doug, Secretary Austin, Secretary Brown, two of the best decisions ever made in my career, I might add. Service secretaries, members of Congress, and most importantly, this patriotic band of service members before me. Serving as your commander-in-chief has been the greatest honor of my life. While I'm deeply grateful for your thanks and affection, I'm here to thank you. Thank you for your service to our nation and for allowing me to bear witness to your courage, your commitment, your character. As I listened to the choir sing, I thought about it. You all represent what America is: character, honesty, integrity, commitment. Like Washington, you've left me astonished, and I mean it. Over the years, I've frequently seen you in action in war zones in Bosnia, Baghdad, Fallujah, Kabul. I was going to bore the hell out of you, but Helmand, Kandahar, and other places. I remember one trip to Afghanistan as vice president. I was at a forward operating base, Wardak Province, which is in eastern Afghanistan. I was asked by a commanding officer to pin a Bronze Star on a soldier for his heroism. The soldier's teammate was hit while driving in a Humvee. And this soldier did everything possible to rescue his colleague from the burning flames. But when I went to pin the medal on him, the soldier looked at me and said, "I don't want it. I don't want it. He died. I don't want it." And in that moment, all I could think about was the incredible courage and humility and moral compass that this soldier had, that all of you have. This is not hyperbole. You are simply the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. In the history of the world. That's a fact. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. And there's never been a time in history when we've asked our military to do so many different things, so many places, all at the same time. And I want to be clear, you've done all these missions with strength, and maybe even importantly, with integrity. When I ask you to end our nation's longest war, it rose to the occasion, evacuating Americans, allies, and our Afghan partners, accomplishing the largest airlift in military history, and ending a war with the same courage that defined American service in Afghanistan for over 20 years. I believe history will reflect it was the right thing to do, but I know it was hard. After decades of losing your brothers and sisters, including the withdrawal, the pain was still real. And it was for me as well. Every day I still carry it, every single day. It's my schedule. On the back of the schedule, every single day, at the top since I've been here, it says daily U.S. troops in Afghanistan. U.S. troops have died in Afghanistan. 2,465. Not over 2,000, 2,465. Troops wounded. 20,769. And every day we'll honor their sacrifice for continuing the mission for which they gave their lives, fighting terrorism, defending our homeland, and protecting the American people. 6 months after that war ended, when Russia began its largest war in Europe since World War II, I asked you to help defend Ukraine. You didn't hesitate. You kept Ukraine in the fight, trained Ukrainian soldiers and pilots, troops, bolstered NATO's eastern flank, and above all, you showed the world America stands up for freedom, stands with our friends. America stands strong with our allies. We never bend down. We bend down to no one. Certainly not Putin. And now, nearly 3 years later, Putin has failed to take Kyiv, failed to make large territorial gains, and failed to break NATO. As a matter of fact, when I spoke to him on the phone, he talked about he wanted us to be the Finland of Europe. And I pointed out to him at the time, for real, that you're not only get the Finland of Europe, you're going to get the Finlandization, not of Europe. You're going to see Europe joining NATO, Finland joining NATO, Sweden joining NATO. And America's watch. Dictators do not get to do whatever the hell they want. Then following Hamas's terrorism on October the 7th, I asked you to, excuse my back, by the way. My mother would be very upset. I asked you to deploy to the Middle East. Again, you stepped up, pulling long nights and long deployments to weaken Hamas, to defend Israel against unprecedented attacks on Iran. Imagine had we not. If we don't lead the world, who will lead the world? Who? And twice, you stood up to the attacks by the Houthis in the Red Sea. Last year, I spoke with the women and men aboard the destroyer that took down the first Houthi attacks. It was the USS Carney. And I want you to tell you all what I told them. We owe you. We owe you. And back in May, yesterday I proud announced a ceasefire, the hostage deal between Israel and Hamas. The road to that deal was not easy. It was 8 months ago I laid down the elements of that deal in May, embraced by countries around the world, because they know we say what we mean, endorsed overwhelmingly by the UN Security Council. It's taken 8 months of nonstop, relentless effort of my administration to get it done. But because of you, all of you standing behind me, because of you, because of so many diplomats and defense professionals, we kept the pressure on Hamas. And we got it done. We got it done. And finally, when I ask you to strengthen America's position in the Pacific, in the middle of all the other conflicts and crises, you said no problem. You kept China in check. Remember when we took office? China was going to overcome the United States economically and politically by 2030. Everybody wrote that, except here in this building. The skies open, the seas free, and our allies close. you established our first trilateral defense partnership with Australia and the United Kingdom, our first trilateral partnership that we said couldn't get done with Japan and the Philippines, and our first trilateral partnership between Japan and South Korea. Remember that? Camp David that said we couldn't do it. It wasn't me. It was America. We did it. That's what America does. And people know America's acting out of character. Our nation is so much, and so many others. Our nation has asked so much, so many others as well. Doctors and nurses, helping service members to learn to walk again, eat again, speak again. The National Guard members who dropped everything to help their fellow Americans during the fires and hurricanes. The Marines guarding embassies around the world. The scientists making sure we have an edge over adversaries. Interpreters who make our missions possible. And perhaps most importantly, your families. They sacrifice so much. And I might add, the doctors and nurses. Excuse a point of personal privilege, as used to say in the Senate. Came home I commuted every day, every single day, over 2,100,000 miles on Amtrak because I lost my family when I first got here. My oldest son, one day I went home, he was the Attorney General. He said, "Dad, what are you doing Friday?" I said, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "Why don't you pin my bars on?" I said, "What?" He said, "You're married with 2 children." I said, "No, Dad, but someone's got to go." He spent a year in Iraq, won the Bronze Star, Conspicuous Service Medal. But like many others, he was exposed to those burn pits, which were within about half a mile of where he bunked. He had stage 4 glioblastoma like so many other of our folks. And I watched the nurses and the doctors who took care of him for so long. And by the way, I want to take a moment to speak to all military spouses, kids, and parents here today. Most Americans never see the sacrifices that you make every single day. They'll never see all those holidays and birthdays with an empty seat at the dinner table because mom or dad was deployed. They'll never see all the moves you had to make to new states, to new schools, to new jobs. But I see it, and Jill saw it. She made it her life's work. She's done everything big and small. Help military spouses find child care and build their own careers. By hanging photos, employed moms and dads outside classrooms of those National Guard folks. Because on every holiday, every time there's something going on, their moms or dads weren't there, but no one ever mentioned it. She started getting in every classroom in America to put a picture of an employed mom or dad outside the classroom. Even this morning, she held an event for joining forces, an historic White House initiative to support military and veterans' families. Because as the poet John Milton wrote, they also serve who only stand and wait. They also serve only stand and wait. So for the last time as Commander-in-Chief, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all the families. We owe you. I've long said as a nation, we have many obligations. But I said we only have one truly sacred obligation. That's to prepare those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. Over the last 4 years, Kamala and I have worked to make good that obligation. We passed more than 40 bipartisan laws to support you, including something that I felt so strongly about, the passage of the PACT Act. We drafted that law and we passed it. Now, it's already helped over 1 million service members and their survivors, their children, their access, everything from college to health care. These people were exposed to toxins. In my generation to Agent Orange, my son's generation to burn pits. But we had to prove that what you had, with your disease, all the brain damage, all the brain cancers, were a direct consequence of those toxins or Agent Orange. But we changed that. And I want to publicly thank the 9/11 Commission, all those folks, all those firefighters who were so badly damaged because of the fumes and the toxins associated with the 9/11. And those of you who are the Vietnam generation, finally, all you had to prove is that stuff dropped on you, and it didn't cause. They didn't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt it caused your disease. Just state the fact, and you're covered. We've invested over $1 trillion in our defense industry base. In real dollars, that's more than America did in any 4-year period during the Cold War. We also invested record resources to fight the scourge of military suicide. No more calling and saying, my husband needs help. He needs help. Get an answer. We brought veterans' homelessness to record lows. Made historic changes in the military justice system.